I thought more sex meant I was healthy, until my body shut down. Mark, a 67-year-old retired engineer from Arizona, never thought he'd feel this alive again. After decades of focusing on work, raising kids, and navigating a quiet divorce in his 50s, Mark had just started dating someone new he met at a senior yoga class. It felt refreshing, exciting, like being 35 again. They became intimate quickly. At first, sex 2 to 3 times a week gave him a rush. His energy soared, his mood lifted, and he finally felt like he was reclaiming a part of himself he thought was gone. But within 2 months things changed. After one particularly passionate night, Mark woke up feeling lightheaded and dizzy. His heart was racing, his knees shaky, and his vision went fuzzy for a moment while brushing his teeth. He brushed it off, until it happened again. And again. I was feeling horny, sure. But now I was also feeling fragile. That's when he decided to talk to his doctor. A checkup revealed mild arrhythmia, rising blood pressure, and early signs of adrenal fatigue. His doctor's words still echo in his mind. Mark, your desire is still alive, and that's great. But your cardiovascular system? It's 67. Not 37. Mark was shocked. He never imagined sex could take away from his health instead of adding to it. He had assumed that the more he could perform, the healthier he must be. Turns out, his body was burning through its reserves faster than it could recover, especially with minimal sleep, no hydration routines, and the emotional high of a new relationship. Horniness doesn't always mean readiness. Sometimes it's your body's last roar before it crashes. That moment changed how Mark viewed intimacy. He started pacing himself, not just in the bedroom but in life. More focus on connection, less on performance. More rest between highs, more listening to what his body was trying to say. Why men over 60 still feel horny, even if their bodies say otherwise. One of the biggest misconceptions about aging is that your sex drive just disappears. But here's the truth. Many men over 60 actually experience a resurgence in libido, especially after retirement. Not because their testosterone is magically back, but because for the first time in decades, they finally have the time, the space, and the peace to feel again. That's what happened to Mark. He wasn't overwhelmed with deadlines anymore. He didn't have teenagers slamming doors, or a wife who had emotionally checked out years earlier. For once there was calm. And in that calm his body started feeling again. Desire returned. Touch mattered. Time felt slower and more intimate. But here's the catch. Desire doesn't necessarily mean hormonal strength. Testosterone levels in men typically decline about 1% per year after age 30. By the time a man reaches 60 or 70, he's often running on 60% to 70% of what he had in his youth. And yet, his mind and sometimes his heart can still feel like he's in his 30s, especially when he's with someone new, or when emotional intimacy is rekindled. Just because your heart wants to dance doesn't mean your knees are ready to follow. What's more fascinating is the role of dopamine and oxytocin, two powerful brain chemicals tied to anticipation and connection. In older adults, especially those who've been touch-deprived or emotionally isolated, physical contact can release a surge of these chemicals. That surge can trigger energy, excitement, even euphoria. And that high can easily be mistaken for sexual stamina. But here's the warning sign. That high doesn't last if it's not backed by physical recovery. The system can't reset as fast as it once did. Hormonal reserves deplete faster. Recovery takes longer. And pushing through that, week after week, can quietly wear down the cardiovascular system, the nervous system, and even your emotional balance. So yes, feeling horny at 60 is normal. But it's not always a green light. Sometimes, it's a sign that something emotional just woke up. Not that the body is ready to perform like it used to. Can a man's body actually handle frequent sex after 60? Let's be real. Sex is physical. It's emotional, yes, but it also burns energy like a short, intense workout. For a man in his 30s, his heart rate spikes and recovers in minutes. Blood vessels dilate and contract easily. Testosterone levels replenish overnight. But at 60, 65, or 70, your recovery game changes. Mark, like many men his age, assumed sex was a form of healthy exercise. And it is, when it's balanced. But frequent sex without rest can quietly stress the body in ways you don't see until it's too late. Let's break this down. Each sexual encounter activates your sympathetic nervous system. The same fight or flight response that raises heart rate and blood pressure. Add in elevated dopamine and oxytocin, and your system gets flooded with activity. After sex, the body needs time to reset, to restore electrolyte balance, to restabilize blood pressure, to replenish testosterone. For younger men, this takes hours. For older men, it can take days. At this age, your body doesn't recover between rounds. It writes a debt that your heart has to pay later. Here's what we see in men who overdo it. Irregular heartbeat. Drop in testosterone baseline. Fatigue that doesn't respond to sleep. Anxiety or emotional dips a few days after. Why? Because the body isn't getting enough recovery time. Because what feels good, in the moment, can turn into biological burnout over time. And the more frequently this happens, the harder it is for your system to bounce back. Your blood vessels get stiffer. Your adrenal glands get tired. Your heart begins to whisper warnings, not loud enough to scare you, but just enough to slow you down. That's the moment most men ignore. And that's when the real risk begins. The hormone trap. Why libido stays high while testosterone drops. Here's something most men over 60 don't realize. You can still feel desire, even when your testosterone is declining. It sounds backward, right? You'd think less testosterone means less libido. But in reality, it's more complicated than that. Testosterone is only part of the sexual equation. Your brain, especially the limbic system, plays a massive role in how you process intimacy, anticipation, and connection. When you're emotionally stimulated, when you feel seen, wanted, or excited by a new relationship, your brain releases dopamine. Dopamine is powerful. It gives you that thrill, that craving, that I want this fire inside you. And it can override the fatigue. It can mask the low testosterone. It can even convince you that your body's doing just fine. But it's not. Desire is a spark. But if the wood is wet, no fire will last. Low testosterone doesn't always shut down libido. But it does affect performance, recovery, and long-term stability. Without enough testosterone, your erections may become weaker. Your stamina may shorten. Your energy might crash after sex instead of lift. Even more, low testosterone can impair sleep, increase abdominal fat, and reduce motivation, creating a cycle where your body is less and less prepared for the thing your mind keeps craving. It's the hormonal trap. You feel like you can, but your body isn't sure it should. Many men push through anyway. They rely on willpower, supplements, or even pills to meet the demand that their body quietly resists. And over time, this mismatch between mind and body leads to frustration, anxiety, or even depression. The solution isn't to kill your desire. It's to listen to it carefully and make sure your body is truly ready to follow. Because desire without support is just pressure in disguise. How often should you really have sex after 60? By now you've probably realized this question isn't just about sex. It's about energy. It's about balance. It's about learning how to listen to a body that isn't as forgiving as it used to be. Because while desire might still burn bright, your ability to recover, physically, hormonally, emotionally, has changed. And pushing past that reality, in the name of proving you've still got it, can cost more than it gives. So let's slow it down. Let's strip away the numbers, the comparisons, the silent pressure to perform. Let's look at the real science, the real signs, and the rhythm that actually supports your well-being. We'll start with the basics. How often is enough, without going too far? The sweet spot, 1 to 2 times a week. Let's be honest, there's no magic number that fits every man. But if we look at the research, from places like Mayo Clinic, Harvard Health, and even long-term men's wellness studies, 1 to 2 times per week is where most men over 60 find their balance. Not because they can't do more, but because doing more starts to cost them energy, focus, recovery. Sex is not just about what happens in the moment. It's about what your body has to do after that moment is over. Rebuild hormones, restore heart rhythm, reset your nervous system. And here's where many men push too far, because they feel good during sex, but don't connect the dots. When they feel worn out for the next 2 days, you don't realize you've overdone it until joy turns into effort and intimacy starts to drain instead of restore. If you're still tired 48 hours later, if your sleep is off, if you feel irritable, foggy, or flat, that's not aging. That's your body asking for space, for rest, for pacing. So what's the takeaway? 1 to 2 times a week gives you time to feel connected, to build anticipation, to recover fully. So each time becomes something you look forward to, not something your body has to survive. It's not about slowing down. It's about deepening. Quality over quantity. And when you let go of the pressure to keep up, you make room for something much more powerful. Presence. Watch for the red flags. Your body doesn't scream right away. It whispers. Quietly. Subtly. Sometimes kindly. But it never lies. And when it comes to sex after 60, those whispers matter more than ever. Many men ignore the signs. They chalk it up to normal aging. Or say, I'm just tired from work. Or worse, maybe I'm just not a man anymore. No, you're still a man. You're just in a different season. And this season requires listening. So here are the red flags. Your body might be waving. After frequent or intense sexual activity, lightheadedness, shortness of breath, tightness in the chest, waking up more than twice at night, irritability, sadness, or brain fog, loss of interest in intimacy for days afterward. Each of these is your body's way of saying, I need more time. I need a slower rhythm. I'm trying to keep up, but I'm falling behind. The strongest men aren't the ones who push harder. They're the ones who know exactly when to pause. You wouldn't drive your car across a desert on a nearly empty tank. So why do that with your own energy? Pay attention to what happens after. Not just the moment of pleasure, but the 24, 48, even 72 hours that follow. That's where the truth lives. In how you sleep, in how you breathe, in how you feel, not just in your body, but in your spirit. If you sense those red flags, it doesn't mean you're broken. It means your body's being honest. And honesty is a gift, not a weakness, not a warning, but a whisper worth hearing. Intimacy without pressure. At some point, every man over 60 needs to redefine what intimacy means. Because for most of your life, intimacy and performance were tied together. You showed love by what you did. You proved yourself through action, through physical connection, through stamina, through results. But now, intimacy can become something deeper, something quieter, something more powerful than performance. It can become presence. The way you hold her hand when you're both sitting in silence. The way you rest your palm on her back as you pass by in the kitchen. The way you listen. The way you stay. The way you show up fully, even without expectation. Real intimacy isn't measured by how long you last, but by how deeply you're felt. And here's the beautiful truth. Oxytocin, the hormone released through gentle touch, eye contact, and closeness, is just as powerful as testosterone when it comes to connection. Oxytocin lowers blood pressure. It improves sleep. It reduces anxiety. It strengthens trust. You don't need to chase performance to feel close. You just need to show up without pressure, When you remove the need to achieve, you create space for something softer to grow. Playfulness, warmth, safety, stillness. And in that stillness, desire returns, naturally, not as a demand, but as a gift. So give yourself permission to rewrite what intimacy means. It doesn't have to look like it did at 30, it just has to feel real. At 60, 70, even 80, create your own rhythm. Let go of the charts. Let go of the rules. Let go of what your friends say, what your younger self remembers, and what the internet keeps shouting at you. Because the rhythm that works is the one that's built for you. Start with this simple question. How do I feel the day after sex? Not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, energetically. Are you waking up rested or drained? Do you feel more connected or more distant? Is your mind clearer or foggier? Your body is not a machine. It's a living rhythm, and it changes week to week, season to season, year to year. The real power of manhood isn't in performance. It's in knowing exactly when to move and when to be still. So find your rhythm. Maybe it's once a week. Maybe it's once every 10 days. Maybe it's spontaneous, when your heart and your body both say yes. No pressure, no scoreboard, just presence, just honesty. Talk to your partner. Ask her what rhythm feels loving. Ask yourself what feels kind. And trust that rhythm, even if it looks different from anyone else's. Because when your rhythm is yours, it stops being a performance and starts becoming a dance. What your body has been trying to tell you. So, how often should a man over 60 have sex? The answer isn't in a number. It's in how well you know yourself. It's in how carefully you listen. Because desire at this age is not a problem. It's a gift. It's a sign that you still have life inside you. That connection still matters. But the body speaks in whispers. And your job now isn't to chase performance like before. Your job is to listen, to adjust, to honor what's changing, and still make room for love to grow. You've heard the research. You've seen the signs. You've felt the difference between what excites and what exhausts. Now you get to decide. You get to build a rhythm that fits your energy, your heart, and the life you want to live. True strength isn't how often you rise. It's how wisely you rest between the highs. So take the pressure off. Start where you are. Let intimacy become something you feel, not just something you do. And if this message spoke to you, if you saw a part of yourself in Mark's story, or in the quiet moments we've just explored, drop a comment. Let others know they're not alone. Because every time one man speaks up, another man finds permission to stop pretending and start healing. And if you want more honest, science-backed, heart-led conversations like this, you know what to do. Take care of yourself. Take care of your rhythm. And we'll talk again soon.